Good evening and welcome to the 1567th meeting of the General Student Senate, the 20th meeting of the 45th session. Notice that this meeting is being broadcast via Zoom and the recording will be publicly available on YouTube. I now call the meeting to order. Next, I will read the landing. The University of Maine recognizes that it is located on Marsh Island and the homeland of the Penobscot Nation, where issues of water and territorial rights and encroachment upon sacred sites are. Penobscot homeland is connected to the other Wabanaki tribal nations, the Passamaquoddy, Maliseet, and Micmac, through kinship, alliances, and diplomacy. The university also recognizes that the Penobscot Nation and the other Wabanaki tribal nations are distinct, sovereign, legal, and political entities with their own powers of self-governance and self-determination. The clerk will now call the roll.
Cynthia Shelmerdine. Field Lord.
Here.
Nate Fang.
Here.
Jordan Thompson.
Here.
Hayden Buzzell.
Here.
Johnson. Casper Cowan. Here. Joshua Baum.
Here.
Juliana Joven. Here. Isabella Madrid. Here. Kayla Kearns. Here. Matthew Weber.
Here.
Vassar Harvey.
Here.
James Reader Stewart.
Here.
Marcus McLean.
Here.
Bo Mishu.
Here.
Meredith Waters. Here. Darren Martone.
Here.
Kyle Ricker. Zachary Kellogg.
Here.
Ethan Grady.
Here.
Hazel Sparks. Here. Alan Bellot.
Here.
Taylor Stanford. Here. Egan Tripp.
Here.
Memphis Peterson.
Here.
Oliver Baugh.
Here.
Dylan Lehman.
Here.
Neil Rocky.
Here.
Elizabeth Oldfield. Here. Abby Downer. Here. Zoe Stankovitz. Here. Olivia Britton. Here. Riley Mills.
Here.
Mackenzie LeBlanc. Amanda Levesque. Here. Jacob Harquist.
Excuse.
Anna Blanchett.
Excuse.
Zachary Wentworth.
Here.
John Guzman.
Here.
Pascalea.
Here.
Kairo Donenbaya.
Here.
Danny Tanaka. And Lawrence Delco.
Thank you. I am now looking for approval of the October 8th, 2024 minutes and this agenda. Senator Waters.
I move to approve the 10/8/2024 minutes and this agenda.
Second. If that is the pleasure of the Senate, that is adopted. Next we'll move on to Robert's Rules Tip of the Week. Let's see. How about a motion to adjourn? This is simply to adjourn the meeting. You say, I move to adjourn. You cannot interrupt whoever's speaking, and it does need a second, and to pass it needs a majority vote within the Senate. Next, we will move on to general good and welfare. Any non-member may address the General Student Senate for not more than 5 minutes. Going once, going twice, seeing none. Nothing for new senators, officer appointments, and resignations. We will begin club maintenance with the American Marketing Association for preliminary recognition. Go ahead and step up to the podium.
My name is Logan Howard. I am the Secretary of American Marketing Association here at the University of Maine, and we're seeking to reinstate our recognition with student government. What we do is we provide a platform for individuals who are passionate about marketing, mostly marketing majors, but also non-marketing majors who want to enhance their marketing skills. They can acquire leadership experience, and they can establish valuable connections with other Maine Business School students and faculty and industry professionals.
Thank you. Are there any questions for the speaker? Senator Waters?
It's called the American Marketing Association. Do you have a national organization you're under?
Yes, so American Marketing Association is a national organization, and we are in good standing with the national.
Senator Ricker?
What's your favorite part about the club?
My favorite part about the club is the connections that I'm able to make with other marketing students and also other non-marketing students. And how I'm really able to learn marketing skills that are not necessarily taught within a marketing class. It's a lot of like personal branding and professional development stuff that is learned outside of the classroom.
Any other questions for the speaker? Senator Bowman?
You asking for funding in the future from us?
Yes, we will be asking for funding for a trip that we are going to attend in the spring. We're trying to go to the national conference in New Orleans taking a group of about 6 to 8 students.
Any other questions for the speaker, Vice President Oldfield?
Is this a trip you've been on before, like the national conference, and if so, how did you find it previous to student government?
So this is not a trip that we have attended in the past.
Any other questions for the speaker, Senator Bone?
Members pay dues, and if so, does it always go to the national chapter, or does it go to you for like something?
Yeah, so members are paying dues. We have dues of $29 and that gets paid to the national meeting.
Senator McLean?
Do you have any plans for fundraising at all on this trip?
We do have plans for fundraising. We've been talking about like developing various things like within our exec board. We've been tossing around ideas right now. Nothing has been really solid, but there are plans in the making.
Any other questions for the speaker? Seeing none, what is the committee's recommendation? 4-0-0. Senator Waters?
I move to accept the committee's recommendation.
Second.
If that is the pleasure of the Senate, that is adopted. Any discussion on the motion? Any debate? Seeing none, all those in favor? All those opposed? All those abstaining? Seeing a clear majority, that passes. Next, I'd like to welcome the Society of Automotive Engineers for preliminary recognition.
Hi, my name is Terry Simmons. I'm the current vice president of the Society of Automotive Engineers Club, also seeking preliminary recognition. We're primarily an engineering club underneath the mechanical engineering department. Our primary goal is participating in the international SAE competitions, primarily the Formula Design Series. We're essentially made up of students looking to develop skills in modeling, research, designing, building. We also have members that aren't engineers that are helping us with both the promotional and fundraising side of the club. But obviously majority engineers as of right now.
Thank you. Are there any questions for the speaker? Senator Baum?
Have you been on like these competitions before?
In the past. The last time the club went was back in 2013, when we built the original car. Club has been kind of stagnant since then, but our goal is we're currently on track to attend competition this next May.
Any other questions for the speaker? Seeing none, what is the committee's recommendation? I'm sorry, Senator Weber, do you have a question? No, okay. What is the committee's recommendation? 3-0-0 at the best. Senator Morton?
I mean, you accept the committee's recommendation.
Second.
If that is the pleasure of the Senate, that is adopted. Any discussion on the debate? Any debate? Seeing none, all those in favor? All those opposed? All abstaining? Seeing a clear majority, that passes. Next, we'll welcome the Birding Club for preliminary recognition.
I'm Drew Hull, I'm the current vice president of the Birding Club, and we're seeking preliminary recognition. Meet every Thursday at 5 p.m., have some kind of bird focus meeting, whether it's teaching people how to identify birds, having some kind of game about birds, having an art night about birds, just anything about birds. Then every weekend, we'll usually go on a birding trip, and the officers, like people who've been experiencing birding, will teach people who might be newer to birding how to bird. We'll just have a good time with them. Really all.
All right, any questions for the speaker? Senator Ricker?
Members, so our first meeting this semester, we peaked at about a little over 60 people. And since then we have over 30 for every meeting consecutively, usually over 40.
Senator Fang?
Do you anticipate requesting funding from us in the future?
Not at this time. We've had no financial needs to date.
President Burke?
Do you have a favorite bird?
The red-headed woodpecker.
All right, you were ready for that.
Any other questions for the speaker? Senator Fang?
How do you get to these long trips?
So we'll usually do like a cool, set up a sign up sheet, people will offer to drive. And usually people financially, people will just kind of figure out gas money for their own cars.
Any other questions for the speaker? Seeing none, what is the committee's recommendation?
210 up to pass.
Senator Martin?
I move to accept the committee's recommendations.
If that is the pleasure of the Senate, that is adopted. Any discussion on the motion? Any debates? Senator Waters?
Who's the one now?
Excuse me.
Am I allowed to say?
Are they in here?
Whoever voted no, if you want to raise.
You don't have to, if you're shy, it's okay.
I second that question, though I am curious. Seeing none, any other discussion?
It's crazy.
Any debate? Senator Baum?
For VP Rocky, can you tell us if there was any objections during SOC's meeting club?
No, there were no objections. I was surprised by the no vote.
It's gotta.
Representative Merchant?
Okay, so apparently there's if there would be an element of opposition, birds are cool, let's pass this, that's it.
Any other debate? Seeing none, all those in favor? All those opposed? All those abstaining? Seeing a clear majority, that passes. Last but not least, we have the American Red Cross Club for preliminary recognition.
Hi, my name is Deanna. I'm the president of the American Red Cross Club here at Maine receiving preliminary recognition. Basically, our mission is to be an extension of the greater American Red Cross. There's an office here in Bangor that I've been working with closely. And they have kind of their own highlights set for clubs. We will participate in 3 volunteer and community service events per year. And we will have every member register as a volunteer for the Red Cross. Yeah.
Thank you. Are there any questions for the speaker? Seeing none, what's the committee's recommendation?
300 up to pass.
Senator Martin?
I move to accept the committee's recommendations.
Second.
If that is the pleasure of the Senate, that's adopted. Any discussion on the motion? Senator Reed Receiver?
Well, I love the idea of the charitable contributions that the Red Cross does. I do have a slight problem.
You say that. Any discussion? Any debate? Senator Reed Receiver?
I was gonna say, well, I do like the idea of the charitable contributions that the Red Cross does. Don't they still discriminate against LGBTQ people who are trying to give blood? Because I knew that wasn't the.
Point of order relevance.
I'll sustain that. Any other debate? President Tripp?
Just as a point of information, the Red Cross doesn't do that anymore.
Any other debate? Vice President Rocky?
I was curious about duplicating another club's mission things. We do have a lot of health professions or medical related clubs. We decided that they don't, and also CSI decided that they don't. So they are a unique club in our as a committee.
Any other debate? Representative Merchant?
There's also, just to add on, if clubs that are an extension of an organization, if there are issues with said organization, whatever in the past or current, they can be platforms to hold that organization accountable. So I think we should definitely pass this.
Any other debate? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion? All those opposed? All abstaining? Seeing a clear majority, that passes. Thank you. All the people who came and made their case, you're welcome to stay or go, totally up to you. No club presentations, so now I would like to invite our guest speaker, Dr. Michelle Roberts, the new chief of staff for President Mary's office. Welcome.
Feels so far away. Can you all hear me okay?
Yes.
All right, I'm hard hearing out of one ear, so I'm always sensitive to make sure that I'm speaking loudly enough. So if I'm too loud, just flag me out. So thank you for inviting me to be with you tonight. I was asked to talk a little bit about myself, my leadership experience, my role and plans for the office, and then to give you the opportunity to ask any questions. So I started here on August 12th, so I am still very new. I was a first generation college student. My father is an immigrant. He came from Italy when he was in his early 20s. So going to college was something that my brother was older and he didn't go to college, but it was something I always knew I wanted to do. But navigating that experience for any of you who are a first generation college student was really challenging back in the late eighties when I was doing it and there was no internet. It's near and dear to my heart, that topic of first generation students, because it was something I experienced myself. So I graduated from a state school in New York. That's where I'm originally from. I spent the first 4 years of my life there. I was in English and started as a political science major, changed course, and took English and public relations as my major. I ended up getting my master's as an adult while I was working at the University of Rochester in upstate New York, which is a large R1 institution. I don't know if any of you are familiar with it. Large medical center, Eastman School of Music. Got my master's in higher ed administration while I was there. And the president or the provost who I worked very closely with at Rochester got a presidency at the University of Redlands in Southern California and recruited me to be his first chief of staff and secretary to the board. So for the past 11 years, I have been in Southern California, working as a chief of staff. And then for the first 8 years I was there, in the last 3 years, I was vice president for administration, which basically meant I oversaw all of the auxiliary services that were not academic. So facilities, human resources, food services, the bookstore, and conference and events and public safety. So a lot of interesting experiences overseeing those units that I think have helped me in my time here already and dealing with some of the things that come into the president's office. So while at Redlands, I did get my doctorate. So it's never too late to go back to school. I didn't get my doctorate until I was in my 40s. And was not the oldest person walking across stage. My dissertation focused on students who identified as working class, from a working class background, and looking at their college experience and how it shaped their identity and their development in college, and how they learn to navigate the rules of the game on a playing field that they might not have had experience with. So if any of you fall into that category and want to chat, my door is always open. And in terms of leadership experience, I actually started in the corporate sector. I worked as a technical writer when computers were actually just kind of becoming a thing in the marketplace. And then I moved into a payroll company where I started as a technical writer for a large payroll company, and then went to school and got some certificates in technical writing. So I kind of took a weird path to higher education. And then I worked for a training company that did technical training materials and taught some of the first online courses before colleges even knew what online education was. So I was at the forefront of that at a really interesting time. And then my company got sold to an organization overseas. And I found myself in the job market and had no idea what I was going to do. And then I got headhunted by someone at the University of Rochester, and that's how I made my way to higher education, which is a path I didn't even know as a first generation student you could get a job in higher, that was an option. And I worked in IT, so I was a director of communications within IT because I had a technical background, but also an English background. And then I moved into the president's office there as the assistant chief of staff, which is how I ended up at Redlands. And then now here is the chief of staff. So I feel like I've been in the right place at the right time. And so I feel like a lot of it was luck and being in the right place at the right time, but also I think one of the pieces of advice I'd love to give my students who work for me is never say no to an experience, even if it's outside of your comfort zone, because you never know. Like I picked up marketing and communications because I volunteered to be on a marketing team. You just never know where that's going to lead. And the broader you can build your portfolio, the more marketable you'll be. So never say no, and don't be afraid to put yourself out there to learn new things, and to remember that professional development doesn't necessarily happen in the 8 to 5 workday, and that a lot of it will be on your own time. And so just a little bit about me personally. I met my husband in college. We've been married for 29 years. I have a 27-year-old daughter who actually relocated here to live with us with her wife. Her wife is from Australia, so we went through the whole green card process during COVID, which was a fascinating process. It took 3 years. And so I have a newfound appreciation for people who don't speak the language and are going through the process, because we had trouble navigating it, and I feel like we had a lot of agency and understood the language and the process. So it's been really interesting to have them living with us and our 2 dogs who rule the household. And we just bought a house in Bangor, so we're getting settled in and really love the area and have felt a great warm welcome from everyone in the community. So you are all a part of that, and I thank you for that. But in terms of my role, so I don't know if you know what a chief of staff does, but if you've ever watched the political shows like West Wing or anything like that, the chief of staff role that you see on TV a lot is very similar to how it functions in the president's office at an institution. I'm basically the president's right hand. I have to know everything that's going on at all times. I'm on call 24/7. I do everything the president does. I read everything the president reads, and try to serve as a strategic advisor, warning of issues before they become an issue, trying to get out in the community and representing the president, because she's one person and can't be everywhere all of the time. So my hope is you'll see me more on campus, and please do invite me to your various events and activities. The one thing I like to say about the job is I use the analogy that it's like being an air traffic controller. So on any given day, you are trying to keep people safe, get them to their destination on time, with hundreds of planes in the air by multiple airlines, warning of weather conditions, being proactive and trying to make sure that things don't happen or go badly, and making sure that the pilots and the crew and the customers all have a great experience and the tools they need to do their job. And it's very stressful. I'm not gonna lie, it is a high stress job. I think I said during the interview process that being a vice president with a larger portfolio and a larger salary was an easier job than being the chief of staff. But I chose to do it again because it's a fascinating position. You get to work with all aspects of the institution. You get to work with government agencies, VIPs who are coming, boards of trustees, and no one day looks the same. I typically get here around 7 and leave around 6, maybe. And I come in thinking one day it's going to look like a certain way, and then it doesn't look anything like that because, you know, there might be something happening on campus that takes my attention away. So the key things that the president looks to me to do is make sure that I'm active with outreach and engagement in the community broadly. Helping to open doors for people coming into the office who might be afraid to reach out to the president directly. So I can be that first step for people. And I do a lot of work helping people prepare proposals that come into the president so they have a better chance of getting through, because I know what she's looking for. Strategic partner, as I said, we're doing the strategic re-envisioning, which you may have questions on. The other thing that I am trying to do in the office is there's a lot of work that comes through the office, and we're currently not staffed at the level. We have 3 open positions that haven't been filled, and we just had someone who moved out of state and resigned. So my primary goal is to figure out ways for us to be more efficient, to improve workflows. But it's also really important to me to develop the people on the team and professionally, and then also be a mentor. And I do have a pitch for all of you. We need student workers in our office. And I also have several short-term projects that we would love to hire student workers to do. So I will leave my cards. If anyone is interested, please email me, call me, stop by. It would be a great experience for you to give back to the university, but to also learn in valuable skills that you can put on your resume for when you're getting that first job. So that's basically in a nutshell what I do. It's very hard to explain. It's basically whatever needs to be done from it. I will say the one thing that's critically important for someone to be a chief of staff is you cannot have an ego. Because there are days where I might be making a cup of coffee for a VIP who's in the president's office, and 2 minutes later, I could be writing a strategic proposal that's going to the governor, and you have to be able to flex and do all of that in between. without, like I said, without having an ego, and you have to have a thick skin, things move quickly. And it can be an intense environment, but President Farini Money is amazing. She's the reason I actually chose to come here, because I really clicked with her in the interview process. And then the people on my search committee were just so authentic and so much in love with this place and the students that I had to see what it was for myself, and the same reasons you came here. And I feel like I made the right choice, and I'm so excited to be here. So I'm happy to answer any questions. If I can't answer the question, I will find the answers for you. But also my door is always open. I'm over in Alumni Hall on the 3rd floor. Feel free to stop by. I'm in a lot of meetings, so if I can't talk to you right then, we'll make time to talk.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, sorry. If I'm not mistaken, I heard that you spent some time on the West Coast working in upper administration for university and such. I was wondering, from your time on the West Coast in these different colleges, is there anything you've seen there that you'd love to see here in Orlando, or vice versa, something you've seen here that wasn't over on the West Coast that's interesting, or just something?
That's a great question. So I think one of the biggest differences is the pace. Well, when I came from New York, when I got to California, they told me I was too New York because I moved too quickly. And California is a little more laid back, but not really. And here, people seem to be much more intentional and thoughtful about their actions and the way they move through life and balancing their work with their life and really enjoying nature and time they have to do things. In California, it's a little, I didn't really feel that way in California, but in terms of higher education, one of the things that I was worried about coming here is I was at a Hispanic serving institution. So to get that designation, you have to have at least, I think it's 20% of your students identify as Hispanic, Latinx, however they identify. And you have to meet certain criteria. And so Southern California is extremely diverse across all aspects of diversity, not just race, ethnicity, and gender. And I was a little worried reading about the state of Maine, not the university particularly, because I think the university actually does a much better job than the rest of the state. So I was a little intrigued about how that was going to be coming here. But I've been pleasantly surprised by, as my daughter and her wife will say, I didn't realize it was so gay friendly here. And that was actually one of the things that mattered to me when I was looking for a job, is going to a place where I knew that they would be safe. Because when they drove from California to here, there were some states they drove through where they didn't act as, a married couple because they were afraid for their safety. So that was critically important to me on a personal level, and I'm happy to report that we've experienced that. And in terms of the actual educational experience, there's a lot of similarities on what's happening. I've been at 3 institutions now, and there's like similarities, like the RLEs that you have here, the other schools that were at had those immersion experiences. One of the things though that I felt that my former institution did really well was they had 1st-year journeys. That was not technically an RLE. It was basically a trip that you signed up for. You paid a little extra money to do it. It was 3 days prior to freshman move-in, first-time student move-in. And you went on some type of excursion. So my daughter went to California and the Channel Islands. And it was really focused on getting to know people who you were going to be entering, school with. And they did a lot of coaching on the college experience and what to expect if you have challenges with your roommate. And it was fascinating. And we did a longitudinal study, and the people who participated in that program retained at a higher rate than students who didn't participate in the program. So it's kind of takes pieces of what you do with RLE, but it's not focused on an academic topic. It's really focused on the development of students getting ready to be in the college environment. That was a great question.
Any other questions? Representative Lebeck.
First, thank you for taking your time tonight to be here. I appreciate it. I'm also a first gen, I'm also an English major. And resonated with a lot of that. How do you see that you as a chief of staff and maybe the president's office are planning on maybe working on improving the interactions that first generation students have? This university sometimes forget it has
first generation students, I feel, depending on the office that you're in or even the majors, and it's very difficult. So I was wondering if there are any plans that you might personally want to start to implement that would help first generation students interact better with the environment. So that's also a great question. It was something that I asked in my interview, actually. That falls within the area of Robert Dana and his unit in student affairs. Is it student affairs or student life? Student life. And so that is that's conversation I actually asked Robert Dana when he interviewed me about that. Because I would say that's another difference that my two former institutions did really well. There was a first generation kind of office that did bridge programming over the summer. They helped with filling out financial aid, especially for families that had parents that didn't speak English as their first language, to help get through the FAFSA. And if you went through the FAFSA last year when they were making all the changes and it was a hot mess, you know how challenging that was. So I do think that could be an area of thinking about what are the needs of first generation students coming to this particular campus, because some of it is geographic based on what's offered in other programs here. It isn't my area to do anything about, but it is something that I've questioned a few times. And I think that there, in the strategic re-envisioning process where we've been talking about the student experience and centering the student, that has come up several times about first generation students. So I'm hopeful that the groups who control it will bring forward some ideas. And they've been received positively as the feedback from SRE has been shared broadly with other groups. But it can be challenging. You know, the way I talked about it in my dissertation is, as a first generation student, you're really good at playing soccer and you show up to campus and, you know, you've got the simple uniform, the easy rules, you can play it anywhere. And all of a sudden you're in an environment where you need to play golf and you don't have the right uniform, you don't have the money to pay the fees to the country club, like, you know, all of the different things that go along with that and how you learn the rules of the game and understand the hidden curriculum. And so those are areas that are really important to me. And I hope that I can be on those SRE working groups who are going to be focused on that topic. You know.
For the sake of time, we're gonna do two more really good questions. Representative Guzman?
Yeah, hey Michelle, how you doing? Yeah, I mean, we bumped into each other a lot through the semester, so it's good to see you. But yeah, I mean, you touched upon the first generation experience as an area of opportunity coming to the University of Maine with a different perspective. And I really value when an institution outsources from the applicant pool and doesn't just insource, because you provide such a clear and fresh perspective. So with that being said, my question to you is, you know, now situating yourself in this role and having such, you know, broad experience over, you know, higher education, what are the most critical areas of opportunity that you see just in your role on the institutional level, but also on the side of the student life experience level?
So to be completely frank, I haven't had enough experience with student life to know to have an opinion on that. They're one of the areas I met with Robert early on, and it's one of the areas I haven't gotten back from my listening tour, because I've been doing a listening tour across campus. But I will tell you from my direct experiences that I've had so far, disability services, I think, is an area that we need to look at in different ways. And I know, you know, we're resource constrained, so that becomes an issue. And what do we do that's compliance based, but then what do we do that just makes everybody feel like they're belonging? You know, at Redlands, we had 4 students in wheelchairs in 1 year, start in freshman class. And I had been there for 8 years prior to that and kept saying, we need to do an ADA study. This campus isn't accessible by people who are in a wheelchair or on crutches or other mobility issues. And it wasn't until we got 4 students at the same time in a wheelchair that the campus decided to spend money on the ADA study. The challenge with that is you have to have money to invest in the outcomes of the report, which were in the millions and millions of dollars. And in California, it's really expensive to put an elevator in, for example, because of earthquakes. And you have to follow certain code. So in my very brief observation, I think that there's some possibilities around that and test proctoring and all of the things that go into extra services that students need to be successful and also feel like they belong here. And I would say that that expands out to faculty, staff, and visitors of campus as well. And in terms of the institution, I think we could do a better job of telling our story. As a new person researching the institution to prepare for my interview, there were some great research stories and some other things that I found on the web that were really strong, but the student voice and the experience that I've seen being here and talking to all of you is so profound, and it doesn't come across on the web, and I think we need to be on TikTok more. I really do. I love TikTok. It's a session, and there are some universities who use it really well. And the students are telling their stories.
Thank you. We'll do one more really good question, Senator Fang.
In your day-to-day with President Freddie Mundy, what is something about her that you see that you think the applicant doesn't know and should? Yeah.
That's a great question. Well, one, she's an avid bird watcher, so it's too bad they left because she'd love an invitation to that group. You know, she's a mathematician, and so she's very thoughtful and very scientific and sometimes very introspective and quiet. But I think one of the things that I really appreciate about her is she has a really good sense of humor that I don't think a lot of people see. Just because she's a scientist at heart, and she's very presidential and very thoughtful in the way she speaks and interacts with people. But she's also really caring about the team, and yeah, she's funny in a dry sense of humor way that I don't think people see a lot because she doesn't have the opportunity to kind of show it. I think as much in public as she can behind the scenes in the office. But yeah, and she's very thoughtful and extremely ethical, which are things that I was really looking for based on some of my past experiences. So you should feel like you are in good hands with her. I do know that one of the things she wishes she had more time was to spend with students. So that is one of the things that I'm looking at, how we can get her to places where you already are. And have her be part of activities that are taking place on campus outside of athletic events, because we have, you know, the skybox and football and hockey and some of those things, but to really be experiencing some of the things that you're doing at a different level.
All right. Well, thank you very much for making that.
And I'm serious about the job offers, and I do apologize, I have to go. I have a.
Oh, that's fine.
Otherwise, I could stay.
No, thank you. Next, we will move on to executive reports, starting with the Senator Thompson. Sorry.
Motion to limit reports to 3 minutes.
Second.
If that's the pleasure of the second, that is adopted. Any discussion? Representative Merchant?
What's the motion?
The motion is to limit all reports to 3 minutes. Any more discussion? Any debate?
Well.
Seeing none, all those in favor? All opposed? All abstaining? Seeing a clear majority, that is, that passes. All right. Going on. Timer is now set for 3 minutes, and we will have the president of UMSG.
Okay, I have a lot to talk about, so I highly suggest that if I don't get through it all, someone ask me what the rest of my report is about. First of all, welcome back from fall break. We haven't seen each other since, so I hope fall break went well. I wanted to touch base on a few housekeeping things. Number one, the March Against Domestic Violence was beautiful. And I wanted to thank everyone who came, and especially Senator Cowan, Representative Levesque, and all of, I think that's everybody in the room that had like hands-on with this project. I just want to thank you guys again for helping put that together. It was a really great thing to be a part of. Next, homecoming was an absolute blast. I hope that everybody had a great homecoming, especially our clean sweep for the weekend. So play that for the Black Bears. And then moving on, next week, which I'm realizing is actually our Halloween meeting with costumes, but the main campus is coming to get a group picture of all the senators. And I didn't actually make that connection, so I think it'll be funny to see you all in your costumes for the article. But we can also kick it ahead, you know what I mean? Okay. President's Sustainability Council. The president and a member of her team reached out to me and is looking for a member essentially to sit on the president's incoming Sustainability Council. This is obviously a sustainability focused initiative. They reached out for a member of UMSG from Orono and Machias, to which I had to kindly explain that we do not represent Machias. Machias has its own student government. But I am totally open to anybody who would want to sit on that. I wish I had enough time, but I don't. So if anybody is environmentally motivated and wants to sit on that, the information I've been giving is that it's gonna meet bi-monthly and then quarterly, and literally I've got no other information. So if you're interested, let me know. Cabinet, tomorrow we'll be finishing up the student leadership scholarship, so please be reviewing those beforehand so that we can do that quick. And then finally for housekeeping, I spent $82.26 for spin coat blocks for the lockers. We'll get into that later. Moving on, I had a productive parking meeting. I addressed some concerns I outlined regarding red parking spaces, and I actually heard back. The changes that they'll be looking at is parking is turning 14 black commuter 14 black commuter spots to red in this week plan. Adding red to black spaces on College Ave South lot. Starter residents will be kind of told to start using that lot more. So added commuter spaces in the Libby Hall lot, maintain the current resident spaces placed in the CCA lot, and is actually advertising them to people in DTAB and Patch. They added a bunch of red spaces and then students didn't know we found out, so make sure that they let them know. And then finally, they're discussing the potential to use U-Park spaces that are sometimes empty for long-term red lot and hit it.
Yeah, sure. Let me hold on. Okay, 3 minutes. For my report, I have sent out a link for all of the senators and committee chairs to schedule one-on-one meetings with me to make sure that you're getting the resources that you need and to make sure that you're fulfilling your requirements. I've met with a lot of senators and made a lot of great progress, but still a lot of you need to schedule your meetings. And also, please keep spreading the word on Senate elections. There's still a few weeks for the application process. And I'm just going to give the rest of my president.
Vigil. Okay, thank you. I want to do a special thank you to CSI for purchasing all the materials for the upcoming Vigil. Thank you. We have James here today. I've hung up posters with Jeremy Collmore across campus. This will be on October 28th, next Monday at 7 p.m. on the steps of Vogler. I hope to see you there. Next, Club Storage. I met with SOC and Polypro to pass my policy. You'll see that later. Moving on, we had a lovely joint dinner with GSG. We got to know them and talk about some of their kind of common concerns and things that we can collaborate on. So that was nice, and to get the teams to kind of get to know each other. I met some of the people I did not know. It then turned into a meeting with their treasurer about the symposium funding, in which it was just an interesting discussion, kind of highlighting the work that we did in the past about getting it supported elsewise. And then we had a CSI exec meeting, same gist, was lovely. We got to get to know some of I knew all of them, but we got to get our exec team to know some of the faces that we worked with closely throughout the year with CSI. Next, I reached out to the president's office to get the senior admin meetings. We used to do these monthly. We haven't done them yet. I kind of reached out and was like, hey, they said, oh, we're working on getting them scheduled. I was like, it's been half a semester. So hopefully that'll be coming soon and we can start having those again. Those are with the president, vice president, and board of trustees rep of both GFG and UMSG. I met with a student about the revival of SEED. SEED is the Student Environmental Action Division. It used to exist as a rep board here, and I'm looking into potentially bringing it back. Finally, happy Greek week. Unfortunately, both of our Greek life reps are not here because they have a Greek week event. They're doing lip sync battles in Wells. So hopefully they're killing it. And that is all I have for my report.
Next, we have the Vice President for Financial Affairs.
Hey y'all, so I've been sending emails like mad lad, and I've reached out to almost all of the departments except some of the liberal arts schools. But a lot of those forms are coming back, so I'll be working with DOT Mills over the rest of this week and next week to get these onto the website. Which they'll just be going under the financial affairs tab as additional resources for clubs to go to. In addition, I've also started outreach with one of our connections for Joseph Light at the foundation, to start working with that alumni account. And then I've started some discussions about sports clubs, how that's gonna look next year and what should be changed and what people's opinions on. So if anyone has really strong opinions or would like to chat, please stop on by. Our starting unallocated for today is $61,551.45. We received one activity fee for this year, and that's $73,171.18, and a second activity fee check receivable of $15,076.64. We had two transfers from on our office budget, both from professional classes, one to the computer and accessories, and the other to equipment. We had three office budgets of anthropology, Maine Avenue Club, and Partners for World Health. Then we had at EBC, we had one tabled request from Black Student Union of $3,352, and then we had one denied request of Nursing International of $74,620.35. And then on the consent agenda for today, you'll see Sophomore Owls at $880, Computing Club at $197.79, and then UBC Committee Fund request for $750.
Alright, next is the Vice President of Student Organizations.
So SOC met twice since you last met each other. Senate, besides the Florida Club leader today, we also heard from backcountry squatters. Backcountry squatters lost their recognition status with student government because of a lapse in update forms at SOC. That the request for emergency recognition was denied, and then it was reconsidered the next week and it was granted, so it's filed and not recognized by student government. Also, an important piece of information, I'm resigning effective the end of the semester. So if you are interested in being the Vice President for Student Organizations, this will not be done by hiring committee as it usually is. This will be done by presidential appointment with consent of the Senate. So if you have questions about the particulars of that, you can ask President Tripp.
Thank you. Next is the Vice President of Student Entertainment.
Hello, everyone. We are about 2 weeks out from the Trevor Wallace show, which is very exciting. So far, as of this morning, 338 people have registered, which is a little lower than what I wanted, but we're still making efforts on that front. DOC Downer got the flyers put up into res halls, and the ABPSC and I, there's two Abby's. The ABPSC and I have been tabling every week, but this week senators on SEC are tabling, which is very exciting. That's a first, I think. Yeah, but we do anticipate that there's going to be a large influx of people later on, especially on the day of the show. So I think that we will definitely meet the 800 seats that we have set aside, and then hopefully go over that too as well. As for movie tickets, last week, the past 2 weeks, because it's been a while, we gave out 211 and 238 tickets, which means for 7 weeks in a row, we've given out more than 200 tickets. And then just for another comparison, in these first 7 weeks, we've given out more than we did in 14 weeks combined last year. So, and just for even more comparison, we aren't finished with October, and those first 14 weeks last year took us to right to like the beginning of December. So we are going through tickets at an unprecedented rate, which is good or bad, depending on how you want to view it. Additionally, ABPSC, Abby and I met with Catherine and some other people from CSI to discuss our involvement in Halloween Weekend, and we are going to be doing an escape room, which is we have some overarching ideas for what to do with that, but next meeting of SEC, Mondays 1 to 2, we're going to be discussing more puzzles and more things we can do to make it as hard as possible. So if you're interested in that, please come on by. And we are still working on the spring show. So if you're interested in that, SEC, Mondays 1 to 2, report.
Thank you. Next is the Vice President of Student Leadership.
Hi everyone, I'm Greg Paul, home from and SLC met today and we talked about the retreat. Also, thanks to everyone who came to SLC. There were so many of us and I was very excited about it. I'll also likely be putting out a survey to the Senate chat just to see interest in some ideas we threw around at SLC today for the retreat. I'm working with Kevin Fraser, who's the CFO at the foundation, to work on amending the scholarship deadlines for next year, so they're available to freshmen. So the scholarship is available to freshmen, and then Cabinet, President Cook mentioned this already, but Cabinet will be the winners for this year's leadership scholarship tomorrow. And then I'm looking into template programs to do like a year-end review, but for Senate this year. And I'll have more on that in the next couple of weeks. If you're interested in helping build that, let me know. It's something we'll be working on in SLC, but if you can't make that committee, you can always let me know and we can work outside of that as well. And new senators, please keep sending me bios. I'm gonna get back to the regular newsletter file next week. And that is all I have for report.
Thank you. Advice for the student government.
Just a couple quick updates on some big events going on. As President Tripp said, this is Greek Week. They have events every night. Tonight is the lip sync battle. Tomorrow night is going to be Greek Week Sorority World Cup out at the Alphon Stadium. Thursday is going to be trivia as usual, and then Friday is going to be Greek tug of war and barbecue. Also tomorrow night in the Wade Center, starting at 6, they're doing a screening of the movie It With Us in conjunction with Title IX. Saturday, October 26th, from 7 to 9 is bingo. That's gonna be at level 100. We've got, I think, close to $2,500 in prizes going on, so it's really cool. Like the computer, I think, is one of the big ones. If anybody wants one of those, we'll have one up there. And then just projecting out Saturday, November 2nd, from 3 to 6 is the Halloween Union Takeover. And like Vice President Lehman said, we're working with student government to have the escape room there and a few other good things going on, but the whole union will be kind of converted into Halloween things that day. We're kind of using it as a pregame the game, so we'll do Halloween and then have everybody go over to the hockey game. And
Thank you. Are there any questions for the speakers? Senator Rickard?
Yeah, question directed at President Tripp. This is a bit of a selfish ask and don't question it too much. I was wondering if there's any way you could push back the main campus photo by 1 week so it's not on the same night as the Halloween photo.
I will ask Sophia, the editor of the main campus. I don't see it being, oh, we might have some insight on this.
As an editor at the main campus, can we please do the photo next week?
I'm gonna leave it up to the main campus. How about that?
Any other questions for the speakers? Senator Michaud?
Question for VP of what? So for these revenues, would they be added to the starting projected allocated or where would they go?
No, these make up like the total budget for the year, which is that one. So this is just the money coming in, but this has already been accounted for in like our total budget.
Any other questions for the speakers? Representative Dorchin?
Yeah, so this is directed toward VP Rocky. Your resignation, it will become effective this semester, and as to why, that's like 2 questions, so sorry.
That's his own personal business, if you'd like to share.
Yeah, that's fine. So yeah, end of the semester, so that means we have a new duties for next semester. President Tripp actually caught me embezzling from the student activity fee to support. And that's why I'm stepping down.
I was protecting him, but whatever. Speakers. DOT Mills?
Question directed at VP of Well, sorry if you didn't, if you already mentioned it, but what was the starting unallocated?
$61,551.45.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for the speakers?
What do you want to know the VPSL plan?
Senator Thompson?
What's the VPSL plan?
Okay, I'm so glad you asked, since this is a big deal for our organization. Yeah, so I wanted the record to be shown that Vice President Rocky is not leaving on any negative terms. But essentially, the way that this is going to work, it is by presidential appointment. Any vacancies are by presidential appointment and Senate confirmation. We've done this one time while I was here. It was when our president dropped out of school, which was a whole shifting around. There were several positions that got shifted, but this isn't unprecedented. This has happened before. And to give you a little bit of where I'm coming from so that we're all on the same page. The way that I'm essentially going to do this is I'm gonna have a concrete timeline for all of you next week. I'm gonna present it and say, hey, it's gonna be unofficial because it doesn't need to be confirmed or anything. But I'm essentially gonna give you the concrete timeline. But the gist of it is, what I'm looking for, is there was a lot of ongoing projects currently with SOC and CSI and kind of a shift in how we do things. So I've decided that it is best for the organization for UPSO Rocky to streamline and finish out all of these ongoing projects, so that we can pass on the brand new SOC system to the new VPSO, rather than trying to explain once again to a incoming VPSO the old system and the new system and how the old system was changed to the new system and why we're changing it and the ins and outs. So that is one reason. Two, I wouldn't want VPSO Rocky training anybody and not being paid for it. So the gist that I'm going to be attempting to do is our last Senate meeting, I believe, is on the 10th. So going 2 Senates back from that. 1, 2, on the Tuesday, the 26th, I'm hoping that will be the date that I will confirm a VPSO through the Senate. But until then, I will be opening essentially a application and interest period where anybody, internal and external, can come and basically reach out to me when I present the timeline. I will also have some sort of Google form so that I don't lose all of the information, because I will like to review resumes and whatnot. But my general gist for this is when you're in terms of hiring somebody for going into next year, I really am looking forward somebody who can pick up the reins and hit the ground running, so that we do not miss a step, and that we don't have another half of a semester kind of naturally of somebody learning the ropes and then we're hiring again, because that halfway through the spring semester would just be hiring. So I'm looking for essentially a candidate that can hit the ground running, and that is currently all I have on my mind. So hopefully that answers kind of where I'm coming from. But of course, you all will get a say when it hits that podium, whenever it does.
Any other questions for the speaker, Representative Palayo?
Question for President Tripp. You said the Senate meeting on the 26th of November. I guess one of two things, that is the Tuesday before Thanksgiving, which we don't always.
Okay, yeah, good point. Hence why I need to come with a concrete timeline. Essentially what I'm looking for is to have enough window at the end of the semester for our incoming SO to work closely with VPSO Rocky on the way out, chair a few SOCs, get a gist of the office so that there is some intermediate period between the two hirees. So I will make sure that there's at least that room, but then we may have to kick it even earlier. So cool.
Any other questions for the speakers? Senator Weber?
For President Tripp. So if a person elected is someone who is a representative who was nominated and elected, will those seats be vacant and then have to be nominated again?
Yep, that the seat would fall vacant, yes. So if they were, I guess what you're asking is if they had ran in a Senate election and then won that Senate election. Yes, you're right. Yeah, but just kind of one of those things where an unexpected vacancy, nothing you can really do.
Same goes for representatives. If they're appointed, they don't have to resign. Any other questions for the speakers? Seeing none, we will move on to periodic reports, starting with the Faculty Senate Student Representative. 3 minutes.
No report.
All right. Board of Trustees.
Okay, hello, everyone. So about a week ago, President Tripp and I found out that the student trustee selection committee's undergraduate candidate was approved by the governor's office and will be at November's board meeting. Board is kind of weird, and I'm not gonna name it yet, just in case I'm not supposed to. I don't see why I couldn't, but I don't know, I don't wanna mess it up. So I'm just not gonna. In less good news, neither of the graduate candidates was approved, and we don't really know the whole story about that. We're having a meeting Thursday, with the people from the committee who were in contact with the governor's office during that process to find out what happened and how it happened and what we have to do next. But we did get the undergraduate candidate approved, so that's cool.
Also, President Tripp, PPFA Blah, and I have our meeting with Kelly Sparks also on Thursday. And then there is a special board meeting this Friday on Zoom at noon, I think, which is just to discuss the 2024 financials. And
Barrett Elections Chair.
Hello, everyone. This week I've been working on the final details for the Senate elections. FEPC met today to finalize that bio form that I sent out to all of you. I know I sent it out like this afternoon, but I have 2 responses. And so I would love if all of you could fill that out as soon as possible. We still need people to join FEPC. There are 2 members right now and only 1 is a senator. And so please encourage your friends, anyone to join. It doesn't have to be just senators, rep boards, general student body can join. Just spread the word. I'm going to be presenting a little bit of an unofficial resolution. There was some miscommunication with what is going on with it. It's nothing to vote on. It's just I'm updating everyone on what is going to be happening. Oh, I'm planning to meet with DOC Downer. I haven't told her yet, but I'm hopeful that we can get some posters and like post stuff on the Instagram, just with the dates and maybe QR codes or emails for people to reach out with information. So if you have any like cute ideas of what you want them to look like, send them our way. I'd love to hear and report.
Student Legal Representative.
Hi, everyone. Before fall break, I met with Sean, and after our meeting, he decided to court with the student to try and get their criminal charges dropped to civil charges. But he did inform me today that they were dropped to civil charges, so that's good. He's also working on a case against the Avenue as a way to push back on their administration for these issues and unfair practices. Sean met with Vice President Lehman about potential spring shows, and he's been working on the contract with the CCA for the upcoming Triple Knowledge Show. Another long-term project we've been working on is updating retirement plans for UMSG employees. There's currently 3 employees and then 1 past employee that this is applying to. And their plan provider has not been in touch or very responsive with Sean, which has resulted in numerous challenges and a bit of a standstill in the process. He hopes the provider will begin making an effort to implement a well-rounded retirement plan, and he's been very doing so. We also continued our conversation about student legal services and how to spread the word to students. As of right now, we are thinking about having a lunch and learn sometime in November, tabling in the future, and creating some sort of social media post. And then he also presented to the Pre-Law Society and talked to the club members about what he does for UMSG, his law school experience, favorite areas of law. And that was before.
Graduate Student Senate.
All right, everyone. So there was 3 things that happened over the course of between last meeting and this meeting. There was a general GSG meeting, which was Friday, October 11th. There was a dinner on the 16th, which Keegan has highlighted, and I will add on a little bit. And then there was the executive meeting. Colleen Fraser did a little talk with them, and they had talked about the idea of doing campus groups, and also like talking about like the cost of it. They are thinking about like joining on with signing on for around 6,000 per year because the students are like way less than undergrads. This is something that they're looking into doing, but it's gonna be a little difficult because they already approved their budget, but it's not possible. There was a highlight of creating a Concord Coach Line agreements with them. There's also like some social events that are either being right now or was canceled, including a meeting with President Joanne Lundy with Keegan, I'm so sorry, President Tripp and UP Memphis. They might, chime in on that at the end. Mentioning of the symposium, and there's also an $8,000 donation to the symposium by GSG, which is, props to them for that. Secretary gave an update list for Senates, from the Senate members. club grants were approved of, applicants were notified, if there was any applicants, applicants, that applied, if they had gotten money, they were notified by the 21st. There was also a couple meetings that were mentioned by the BLT representative, which is like a special meeting on the 25th, for financial reports, and then there's like a full meeting on the 17th and 18th in Orno. Definitely would have been mentioned later on. There was bargaining that happened with the grad union on October 8th and 16th with some good results. And they're also having weekly meetings for bargaining. I'm jumping up a little bit. So the dinner, it went out great. We just talked about like just general relations and just regular chit chat, just getting to know one another. We are hoping to do another dinner like November at some point, so stay tuned for that. So I'm gonna jump ahead because like this is the last little thing. There's updates for like grad union again. They seem to have like no positive shifts with the university. So and also the university had hired a lead negotiator, so that is the thing. But the last thing, which was mentioned on October 11th, was that there were two non-GSG, there were two non-GSG senators that had came to bring a motion of no confidence in regards to some high-level administration. I have no other details in regards to that. I'm gonna be hearing about that this Friday, so stay tuned for that. And what this timeline is meaning is that.
That is 3 minutes. Next, we have the Orno Town Council leaders.
Very short report, the 5th of November, which is 2 Tuesdays from now, also election day. The town planner of Orno will be a guest speaker, and I'm very excited to see what will be discussed and the government's questions that you guys will have in the report.
Old Town City Council liaison?
The new one you hired, sorry. No, that's the town manager, this is a town planner. No report for that.
Military and veterans.
No report.
Director of Communications.
Alright, my report's also pretty short. This week I've been working on, I filmed a Wade Center / exec office video, with the VPSEs. It's pretty funny. But I think it'll be a fun thing to post on the Instagram once I get that edited, but I've been working on that. I'm also planning on starting to do like Meet the Senator Monday posts, something similar to like what's done in the newsletters, just like in Instagram post form. And then, yeah, I just have some other projects that will just be manifesting in the next couple weeks. That's it.
Tech Director.
Alrighty, howdy y'all. So jumping right into it, since our last meeting, I've ordered a new computer. Big shout out to both BPFA Bois and Pam, if Pam's watching. Thank you for helping with that. Began creating a new contact page for students to browse the directory and get in touch with committees, senators, and execs all in one spot with just a press of a button and little descriptions to explain who you should probably contact. Began updating our Greek life page, which I did not know it was Greek week. So that's just a coincidence. Low-key works out though. Collaborating with DOC Downer to create a flyer for the website's report a problem form to put into Res Hall so that students can simply scan a QR code when walking in while flustered and want to rant. So, that'll be a nice thing to put. And begin a discussion with VPSL Oldfield to collaborate together to visit classes under the School of Computer and Information Science in order to spread awareness of UMSG and what it means to be a senator. Update the banner on the website to advertise senator elections and nomination deadlines. And other than that, a bunch of small IG things that are in no way interesting. End of report.
Security representative.
This morning I had a meeting with Jamie Dilber, who's the patrol sergeant for UMPD. We talked about lighting, race, crosswalks, and general safety for students around campus. His goal is to expand outreach to students that live off campus to let them know they're still able to access UMPD services. Unfortunately, they do not have ability to fund projects such as lighting, and he recommended me to the appropriations committee. I was reached out by Elizabeth Bushnell, who's the student success advocate for the College of Engineering, regarding inquiries for crosswalks. not crosswalks, raised crosswalks and speed bumps going down the long road. And I did talk to him about that, and he said a better alternative would be rubber speed bumps, because then we'd be able to take them away for plowing. But that's something that would have to go through appropriations committee, as they don't have the funding for something like that. He also encouraged anyone, if they have questions or concerns regarding UMPD, that I would forward them to him, because he would like to talk to everyone at some point, and he wants that talking points to be prepared. I was late because I was at a meeting with UVAC. They've been really busy lately. They've been volunteering for outreach with Girl and Boy Scouts in the local area, and they're also holding an alumni banquet soon. Talking with them, they really want to have more outreach on campus and for people to know everything that they do. I talked with one of the sergeants, and apparently President Fruity Money didn't know they existed till a little bit ago. And I feel that the work that they do on campus is worth recognizing, so I'll be working with them in the future on their safety on campus. And report.
Thank you. Cougar liaison.
No report.
All right. Are there any questions for the speakers? Senator Waters?
In regards to what Representative Merchant said about the grad student vote, no confidence, I have more information. But we're going into an exec session anyway, so I'll share like a 1-minute sentence there, if that's okay with people. Where did I have my actual question? I don't remember, sorry.
Senator Michaud?
A question for FTCC there, David. So currently as it stands with Senate elections, what colleges are going to competitive elections, meaning that there's more people than seats? And for the colleges that are going to elections, how many candidates are running?
Technically, I would say answer now. The only one that would be going to an election is MBS. They only have 3 senators, as far as I've heard. The nominations in the senator application packets go through a lot of different people, and then sometimes they do them on their own without informing Jeff or PPSL Oldfield. And so there's always the possibility people are thinking about it and have never put the nomination title in. As of right now, I have not received any word of additional names that would be added to the ballot for any college.
President Kerr?
Upon apportioning seats, however.
Yes.
Would you want?
Yeah, so when we talk about reallocating the seats, right now we have 6 senators in CLAS. There are 8 seats. How this election will go, they will have 6 seats in the next calendar year for senators. So they would go to an election. However, currently, there are no overflow. There's no one that is not sworn in right now looking for a Senate seat.
It's exactly 6.
It is exactly 6 right now, yes.
Any other questions for the speakers? Senator Fang?
Question for, I think, your graduates. All current sitting senators are automatically like non, right? What if they want to change their college?
If you want to change your college, ooh,
Talk to her.
talk to me.
You can do that, yeah.
Okay, I can change it. Jeff, me and VPSL Oldfield, any of us would be good contacts. So if you are at large, but you're actually an education major or something, and you want to avoid possibly going into an election, it might be a good idea if you want to, but talk to someone and get the paperwork started.
Just a point of inquiry, I guess, on that. Some senators have approached me personally in exploring this idea, and I've told them that if they want to be on the ballot for a different seat, they would have to go through the application process, just so an at-large senator who has 50 signatures isn't running for an education seat. If they want to run for education, they should have 25 education students nominate them. Senator Harvey?
That's for the UMSG Senate. If a senator has, is in 2 different colleges and they wanted to switch, let's say from like MBS to another one that didn't have an election round, were they able to do that?
With An application paper and nominations from those students. Senator Thompson?
Also for BC St. Francis, I'm confused about the discrepancy. You said there's 6 CLAS senators, but then I looked at the attendance sheet earlier just to check and said there were 5.
Either way.
As far as I know,
Six
there
running,
was
it will
six.
push CLAS into an election.
I may have a.
Right. Second.
Representative Tanaka?
I do.
Question directed towards Representative Merchant. Do you have the rest of that report?
Yeah, no, it's the last one.
If you wouldn't mind, save that for General Walker, and you'll have the 5 minutes to do so.
It would only be 30 seconds, but that's only a discussion.
Feel free, if it's only 30 seconds.
Okay, so essentially, the timeline is, they're gonna be talking about the information of this no confidence this Friday, and then it's gonna be the next 2 weeks, the general senate will vote on that. So it's not gonna be like a one and deal thing. But that is gonna be the timeline, and you will be able to hear about this next week. That's it, end of report.
Any other questions for the speakers? Seeing none, we will move on to reports of standing committees, starting with marketing and public relations.
No report.
Membership.
So you guys, we had a wonderful display here, but now it's, obviously, you guys hopefully enjoyed it. Just trying something new here. I wanted to fulfill my promise there, donation half degrees. I hope that was good. Shout out to Senator Fang for taking out a day's trip with me today and buying a knife. And then, also shout out to Senator Stanford for helping us set this up. And then also shout out to wonderful Panda, she's watching. She got me my check today.
Policy and procedure.
2 resolutions today on the agenda, potentially 2 for Polyper to consider next week. Join us. End of report. This week?
This week.
What do you mean this week?
No.
Oh, I meet on Mondays. Oh my God. I know my life.
Political activism.
Okay, so I emailed who I believe to be the chairs of most of the political activism clubs on campus. I took up the information from campus groups, so it could be wrong, fingers crossed it's not. I only heard back from Nonpartisan Political Club, who said that they're just holding weekly meetings and trying to get some people to serve as poll workers in the election. College Democrats also wanted to let the Senate know that they knocked 1,000 doors this weekend here in the Orlando area, for apartment complexes and such, in support of Senator Mike Ditting and Representative Gosher. And this is more in a personal capacity, but I figure it's relevant to mention. I ran into Secretary of State Shannon Bellows at a house party like a week ago, and I've been talking to her about these kind of like a fact sheet that I'd like to put up around campus about who can vote in the state of Maine, because if you didn't know, everybody who's at least the age of 18 here in Orono can vote in the election, regardless of whether or not they're previously registered in another state, if their permanent domicile is in another state. If they live in Orono full-time, they can vote here if they're 18 years old. So I'm working on that with her. Besides that, I think I got a report.
Services.
Before fall break, I met with Dick Young from the Auxiliary Services Group. Here are some of the highlights of what we went over. I will drop a more detailed report in the Senate chat if you would like to learn more about the discussed details. First, I discussed bringing indoor bike storage to all dog malls. Some of them don't. They told me that that's not possible. So I suggested, investing in covered bike racks. Not a perfect solution, but something. Similar to Senator Schulmerbein, I went over the dangers that long road poses to students and ways to alleviate speeding cars, such as raised crosswalks and speed bumps. And then also, I discussed lack of lighting on campus, and they told me that years ago, there was actually a task force set up with the security committee to solve the situation, identify the places on campus. They seemed to think that they were in the step of implementing new lighting. The problem they ran into was funding. Similar to the bike racks and the raised crosswalks, I was told that they're trying to craft their budget for next year, and they would consider it's a keyword, funding, yeah, not a great combo. And also, I discussed AMP with Dean Graham, And the possibility of making a hybrid model between inclusive access, which was the thing we had last year, where you each individually pick your book. Or and students which would work, we could choose your preferred option. He was telling me that AMP is actually developing that or Vital Sources. And that might be something in the future, but for now, students can buy Vital Source textbooks on the bookstore website. I suggested that this be better advertised, because some students like Vital Source, but it makes sense for them. Also, follow up on, I was in the meeting with Keegan, so the U-Park thing is essentially they're trying to make reduced red passes for first years. If they would park in the U-Park area, and it would be much further and off campus, get cars off campus, but be a reduced price for students who only drive home for the holidays. And also as of October 10th, 65 plus coupons have been given out. Selling out, getting out way faster than I'm expecting, having hit Thanksgiving yet. And a report.
Academic affairs, no report. All right, are there any questions for the speakers? FEPC chair?
What is U-Park?
University Park is it's the family style living, just off campus, kind of down the road, College Ave.
Okay.
Yep, it's that way.
Okay. Any other questions for the speakers? Senator Fang?
Question for Senator Vogel, would you like me to put you in touch with the president of Human Competence?
I think we. I'm sure. Officer, I mean,
Any other questions for the speakers? I do have a question for Chairman Michaud. What malls don't have bike storage?
As I know, it's DTAB hash right now, doesn't have like storage.
Any other questions, President Tripp?
For political activism, have you gotten in touch at all with the Bridge USA crew? I don't even know actually if they've come through recognition, now that I say that, but okay.
No, I mean, I saw something today, from Professor Brewer, that's who also did science, you're science. You got that too, and I saw, it was like, oh, now
That's why it's on my mind. Okay, I just wanted to bring it up to you.
I can reach out.
I know him too if we need help, but.
Any other questions for the speakers? Seeing none, we'll move on to reports of special committees, starting with mental health.
I forgot to write this, but again, having meetings from 5 to 6 p.m. on Mondays, so please be there if you're interested. I've started a chat, Google Space type of thing. You do that, so that's weird. Bailey Lewis, I got an email and I reached out about having a mental health committee help with the Healthy Sex Casino, I believe on November 14th. And found out we will be running the mocktail bar. So if anybody would like to help me with that, I would appreciate it. I don't remember the times, but I'll bring it to the Senate chat. That's always just a good event. That's maybe in the weight center. I'm also planning on soon speaking to Res Life and Counseling Center about some of the things going on. The Counseling Center has been a bit behind on getting back to people, as I've heard, so I want to start being a little bit more proactive on that. And that is the end of that report.
Undergraduate Student Symposium Committee, or Food and Dining Affairs.
My report is in the same space. If you have any questions, please send me a message, because I can't answer any right now. Thank you.
Are there any questions for the speakers? Seeing none, we'll move on to representative board reports, starting with Pam's.
All right, so it's a very good report. Yeah, it's Tuesday. We saw some stuff in the Weight Center. We got some. Cool. If not, we are going to be having another Tasty Treats Tuesday in November. I forget the date. And the other one is that actually no, I will say that until it's relevant. So I have a report.
Honors College.
Pumpkin picking, October 28th, 3:35, so right before the vigil. We're actually helping Jeremy with the vigil, so I hope to see everybody there, and also the pumpkin painting. I'm spending a lot of time trying to gather pumpkins this week, and please, that's a lot of effort that I have to put into that. 50 pumpkins is a lot. And finally, the best update I could have gotten this morning, I signed the contract with Associate Dean Leonheim of the Honors College for the Maine Day Meal Pack Out, and it officially has a date. So April 30th of 2025, that's a Wednesday. It's going to be from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. We're spending the entire day packing, hopefully more than 50,000 meals. So I hope
to get everybody there. That's it.
I have the IFC report. Green Creek is off to a great start with their first event, Capture the Flag, taking place last night. Our next event, the Fraternity Lip Sync Battle, takes place tonight at 6, or likely right now as you're reading this. We are looking forward to the rest of the week and can't wait to see which team is crowned Greek Week champs. As for the Panhandle report, we're good. Jacob and I will not be in Senate tonight, I already said that. But the event is mandatory for everyone on our boards, which is why they can't be here. We have Greek Week this week until Friday, Lip Sync Battle in Wells. Tomorrow's event is the Sorority World Cup on the football field. Excuse me. Thursday is trivia at Wells. Lastly, Friday is a barbecue with tug of war, and the student government is coming to bring non-balls. We would love it if everyone came to our event on Friday to support us and the student government. And Panhandle applications for the new exec board are due on October 31st. Next, we'll do senior class council.
So the senior class council continues to meet bi-weekly in an alumni house, Wednesdays at 7 p.m. I invite all members of class of 2025 to join. We're continuing to actively plan and engaging in various fundraisers and events to raise awareness about our mission and reach our goals for the end of the year. Recently, we attended the homecoming tailgate, connecting with community members, distributing koozies, and collecting donations for senior week activities. Our next event is a collaboration with OHOP on November 20th, with more details coming the first week of November. This will be a 21+ event. If you're a senior, you know someone who is, and you have fundraising ideas or ideas for events that will benefit seniors, such as career-centered things, job app things, continuing education things, please reach out to me and report.
Student athletic advisory.
So some game results. So football beat number 5 ranked Villanova. It was a blowout. Yeah, is that how you say that? All right. Cross country beat Franklin Pierce. Yeah. Field hockey beat Holy Cross. Soccer's on an 8K minute streak. Okay. Women's ice hockey beat Providence, lost to BC. Swim and dive beat Maine Maritime.
That's what I'm talking about.
All right. I got more, trust. So upcoming game news, October 25th, 26th, men's ice hockey facing Northeastern in Boston. This Friday, be there. Field hockey facing UAlbany at home. Be there. And soccer will have a home game against NJIT. The senior game, it's on Sunday though. If you can make it, be very nice, be very appreciated. Some SAC news, so SAC fundraised a bunch of money during homecoming for 50-50 and hockey. Made a lot of money. SAC has its October meeting tomorrow in the Palmer Lounge for baseball, or in the baseball field at 6 p.m. And if there are any volunteering opportunities, let me know. Try to get athletes in the broader community to volunteer a little bit more. So let us know.
And a report.
And a report.
Awesome. Are there any questions for the speakers? Seeing none, we'll move on to community association reports, starting with Shaq.
Hello, y'all. I'm gonna start off my reports now, just talking about the clubs in general, and then I go into the general Shack report. So all of the clubs are, running their general meetings, but a lot of them are participating in Culture Fest, which is happening November 2nd. So, please go support the cultural organizations. But for some news on them, hello. Had a successful New Year dinner. According to Gabriella, who is their VP, they had about 60-ish people in attendance, and they give a presentation on anti-Semitism. So the events are becoming, filled with people. And then let's go. Diwali for Sam is happening as well. They're having the Diwali celebration, and you're all welcome to attend. They put up the flyer recently. And so, attend that event when you can. And those are like the big things that are kind of happening within those organizations besides like their weekly meetings as well. But for the General Shack report, there's a lot. All right, exciting. So one of the major things is that our Shack meeting time has changed due to a lot of, scheduling conflicts and also just like conflicts with events happening during that time as well. We have moved our Shack meetings from Thursday 5 to 6 to now Tuesdays 4:30 to 5:30 p.m. In the Topman room, which is right across the way. Second, I met with Matt Graham on Friday, the 11th, to talk about the Shag X MBS DEI event. Now that we know how ham grant funding works and kind of how that operates, we decided to get high-end ticket presentational speakers and to, actually be able to flesh out this event and make it what we intend it to be. We're moving it to next semester to a February date, March date. And so planning that, be excited. We're gonna reach out to some crazy individuals, which will be super exciting to have. So more to come. We'll be able to plan that out throughout the semester. And really go full swing into everything, kind of falling into February, March. Friends and family feast meeting. I will be meeting with Anila, the director of ODI, on Thursday from 10 to 11 a.m. I will be meeting with her, but I also invited any SHAC members to tag along to talk about the preliminary plans of Friends and Family Feast and how ODI staff is going to play a role, how Student Life is going to play a role, and how SHAC plays a role within that. And then I have a prospective advisor meeting. Oh my God, finally. So I'm meeting with Daisy Singh, Dean of Libraries, Thursday as well, from 3:30 to 4:30, in the Fogler Library, to talk about kind of, integrating her role as our advisor and seeing where, she can support us, and how we can play an integral part, in the broader campus community together, doing that partnership. So a lot of exciting things for SHAC happening. So be excited and report.
Wildstein?
Hi, everyone. If not aware, this week is coming out week on campus, so happy coming out week to those of you who celebrate. There are a variety of events that ODI is hosting, some of which were organized by our very own Senator Cowan. And for our part, Wildstein is going to be spending our meeting painting pumpkins because everyone paints pumpkins during this part of the year. Other than that, I got a couple more things in the works, but no one answers my emails, so they're sort of stalled out, and I keep having to send follow-up emails. And a report.
International Student Association.
Hi, everyone. Last two coffee hours for success. We kept things simple with a similar theme. We had ingredients for sandwiches, so make it at home. It worked out pretty well. Unfortunately, we had to push the Pakistan Culture Feature to week after next. But I'm so very excited for when it happens. As Culture Fest approaches, we're coming up with some fundraising ideas. We're looking to have any t-shirts printed with our logo to help with the bookstore. We also plan to set up a raffle table meeting before Culture Fest to raise funds and for some extra advertising. And then Culture Fest is happening in Rec Center Saturday, November 2nd, from 11 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. It's a pretty big event where people from different countries share their cultures through putting exhibit tables. And I'll personally be hosting exhibit tables, so please come stop by. We're also looking for volunteers if anyone's interested, please let me know. Personally, this is my favorite event on campus because it's such a great opportunity to learn about different cultures and meet people. And you don't have to stay there all day, but I promise you will enjoy it. Please come. Thank you. I'll report.
Are there any questions for the speakers? Representative Malaya?
Question. Request for Representative Guzman. We do have a date for Friends and Family Feast. We should be also trying to schedule Thanksgiving, and I want to make sure they're not on the same day.
Yeah, it would be the Thursday, and Eva told me it would be, she already scheduled, the, whatchamacallit, why am I brain fogging right now? The North Pod, for the Thursday before, Thanksgiving break.
Are there any other questions for the speakers? Seeing none, if it is the pleasure of the Senate, we will go into a 5-minute recess. And we will reconvene at 7:40.
I'm sorry.
We will now reconvene. I'm now looking for a motion to accept the consent agenda. Senator Warren.
I move to approve the consent agenda.
Second. That's the pleasure of the Senate. That is adopted. Next, there's no unfinished business. We will move into new business with 45S POL and act to modify the student organization recognition policies.
Perfect. All right, let's make this as painless as possible. From an act to whereas, for new senators in the room, I provide a little bit of a historical perspective on this project for those of you who are not here and what had happened before. I will not be going over these, but I do suggest that you read them to get that perspective. But going into the meat and potatoes of this is essentially essentially what will govern the new locker and unit system that we have. I have added essentially 4 sections to the sort. Before we do anything, I would like to make sure the Senate is aware that any revisions to the sort do require a 2/3 majority to pass. This is something that we have lapsed in the past. But let's go down. Number 1 is storage lockers mission. This is a brief statement about the mission, essentially, and why we did this. That's what's written in the policy so that people have something to refer to. I want to point out specifically the italicized line without alternative storage options. This is something that you'll see reoccurring. I thought this was important because we are trying to mitigate the issue of clubs and orgs that do not have storage. For instance, sport clubs are provided a certain amount of storage, I believe, from the rec center, etc. So those kind of keeping that in mind, we would like to kind of really address those orgs that have nowhere else to turn. Moving on to storage locker criteria. This is essentially the 4 criteria that the orgs will have to follow in order to be eligible for a locker. This will all, at least the storage locker side of things, will be taking place in SOC. It'll be up to SOC to consider and pass the request for lockers. It is a first come, first served system. Obviously, we are providing quite a bit of storage, but unfortunately, we can't provide everyone storage. And there may come a point where we max out. And I figure the first come, first served program is as fair as we can make it. I do not see any clubs as above or below any others. So this is the only way I saw fit to do so. That's something I'll leave to the end. Okay, appropriate items for storage. This is essentially making sure that they don't put, I don't know, gross things in there. I will be drafting, as you can read, a non-exhaustive list of items that are banned from the storage units and the lockers. I will be doing this with Sean, and I will pass that to the Senate and kind of attach it to the waiver that we'll get to in a moment. And then plan for locker access, they must present to the SOC plan for managing the lockers, including which officers will have access and how access will be managed to prevent misuse and unauthorized authority. I've decided that I think it's in the best interest that we expect only officers be privy to the means of access, but of course we will leave the definition of officers to the orgs respectfully. So if they ever want to create an extra position that perhaps we don't require, like the president, vice president, or secretary, if they want to make it a gear chair, which a lot of clubs do, that officer can also get a key. Moving on to storage units. This is where it gets a little bit odd. Storage units are requestable items through EDC. This does outline a little bit of a guideline. I think it makes sense to keep it all in one place, but the storage unit side will actually be housed in EDC in the way that it has a little bit less of a rigorous kind of vetting system, because all EDC requests have to come through the full body of the Senate. If you recall us voting earlier this year on Maine Outing Club's renewal of their storage unit, and soon I expect to be voting on Backcountry Squatters opening their storage unit. Those things will be able to pass through Senate and EDC, so that already has built-in kind of vetting system. But again, in order to qualify for a storage unit, you have to demonstrate a need for storage unit size storage. If you have 3/10 or a stack of papers, you're not going to get value in that $1,200 storage unit. I think that makes sense. Each year, organizations will have to review the request for storage funding. This is actually how it already happens because we can only fund through the fiscal year. What currently happens is that once the annual budget happens and passes and orgs can request for the following fiscal year, they can put in a request that basically picks up exactly where the current fiscal year will leave off to make sure a seamless transition and nobody gets all their stuff thrown out in the street or worse, sold away. Last section, the only one that I think we might have to really dive into is the loss of storage access. I've essentially outlined what would happen if we have to revoke storage access for multiple reasons. Obviously, loss of recognition makes sense. If they lose recognition as a student org, they should have access to student org storage. However, I want to make it clear that it is not an immediate, we don't immediately just take their things. If you go to the appeals process, essentially the way it says is that any clubs that lose their storage access are given at least 2 weeks to take to remove their things. The SOC has the ability to extend this period, need be. But they cannot go less than 2 weeks. That's way to make sure the SOC does not screw the club out of their things. They should have adequate time to come get it. Okay, moving into another big piece of this, I have it written, the SOC is the final arbiter on club storage unless disturbed by the main motion to the General Student Senate that cites violations of these policies. I did this for a very specific reason. I can see clubs and orgs, especially when it comes to applying for storage, there's going to be a lot of nuance and it's going to be a lot of case by case basis. And I think that the VPSO and the SOC, as 4 senators voted and voted on to SOC by the full Senate, is an accountability in its own. But they will also be the best to make these decisions and make these calls. And sometimes they're going to be hard decisions. And in my opinion, I think it's best to leave it in the hands of the SOC. But of course, if there are ever, as anything is in this organization, if there is, misuse or clear, breaking of these policies on the student board side or the SOC side, the Senate does have recourse. So don't worry, you still have all the power. This is just a way to better streamline it and make sure that it stays kind of in one place. And then I have essentially the last bit is removal of remaining items, which basically makes it so in the waiver, when the orgs sign it, if we do end up having to throw their stuff away because they will not come get it and we need to open that up, we are not legally liable for that stuff and it is their fault at that point. All right. So does anybody have any questions before I go into the resolve?
Are there any questions for the speakers so far, Representative Merchant?
Yeah, so I was just reading over the thing, I might have missed it, but what would, you mentioned keys, right?
Yeah.
Keys would be access to it, so what would the policy be?
What? So not keys, actually.
Not keys.
Fun fact. So the way it'll, actually the locks I have ordered are code keys that can also be reset. So when an org changes over whatever, we can change, or if officers change, we can update the code. And to your point, which I think is how will that be managed? I think that we will be having a list of those codes with Jeff.
Okay, yeah, no, thank you, because I was gonna have that question,
Yeah.
but I was gonna ask for like physical keys, but never mind.
Perfect.
Any other questions for the speakers, Senator Fang?
Other plans in place if a club requests one of the small lockers gets it and then later down the line they need a storage unit?
So those cases, I think, I mean, at any point that a club could say, we would like our stuff back, and we would just kind of turn over, the locker. So those special cases, I don't see this as, impeding that process. What would just basically happen is that they would make a request, if it's going from a locker to a storage unit, they would make that request with EDC. And I would imagine that they would want to see if they get the storage unit before they choose to remove their items. And I think all of that can be handled in this process.
Would EPC be like aware and like try to prevent double dipping basically?
Well, the SOC and the VPSO will have to report, much like, oh, did I not write that in here? We talked about that, polygraph, right? Didn't we add that? Or did we not end up adding it?
I don't think we ended up adding it, we just assumed that it'd be implied
Yeah, the
that,
implication is that the VPSO will report to the Senate, much like they report on emergency reactivation. But again, if anybody wants to write that into this policy, happy to make those amendments tonight.
Senator Ricker?
Yeah, this is kind of bouncing all of that, but like, assuming this passes and et cetera, will there be a resolution for the VPSO job description to emphasize the club storage being over there and SOC's purview?
100%, yep. I will, those, essentially, this is the policy first, and then I will be following all of those, the kind of back end stuff, with a resolution later.
Senator Sparks?
Is there gonna be a strict like one locker per org policy?
Yes, I guess that's also, I thought that would be implied, but I guess it's technically not written, but I would imagine that if a club came into SOC and was like, we want a second one, then SOC would be like, no. But maybe there's a time and place where only 3 of the lockers are being used and SOC would be happy to give out multiple lockers. So again, it leaves it to the discretion of the SOC.
Any other questions for the speaker?
Cool.
Seeing none,
Okay, so we're gonna move into the resolved question. So the first one is the first one just summarizes everything, not important. But I want to point everyone's attention to the second, or the last resolve. And this is a little bit of a learning experience too. But in this resolution, in the italicized words, you can see that I am also making a motion for the Senate to take an official opinion on something. This is not something that happens very often. But when written into resolution, essentially you can pass sentiment and really what this is kind of like is intent. We're passing intention with this project. And I'm just gonna read this out just so we're all on the same page. Resolved, it is the official position of the GSS that we recognize that while this initiative helps mitigate storage issues, challenges remain. UMSG commits itself to continued advocacy for expanded storage solutions. As with passage of this resolution, neither UMSG nor the campus is in a financial or logistical position to pursue a comprehensive long-term on-campus storage solution for both large and small-scale storage needs. However, the Senate strongly recommends future sessions of the GSS consider revisiting and pursuing this subject once finances and campus space availability are more stable and sustainable. There's a habit that UMSG has had in the past, which is that we will put out a little fire that's probably part of a bigger fire, and we'll take that as a win and we'll leave it. I don't want that to be what this is. When I started this project, I wanted originally a on-campus, long-term storage solution. I do think that is what is best in the interest of the student orgs on this campus. And I think that is what they eventually deserve. I would like just to ensure that upon the passage of this, that there is clear written intent that the Senate will revisit this if they are able. So yeah, that's my whole resolution.
Are there any questions for the speaker? Seeing none, what is the committee's recommendation?
200 off pass.
Do I hear a motion to accept? Senator Fang?
I'm looking to accept the committee's recommendation.
Second. If that is the pleasure of the Senate, that is adopted. Any discussion on the resolution? Any debate? Seeing none, all those in favor? All those opposed? All those abstaining? Seeing a clear 2/3 majority, that passes. I will now cede the chair to the president pro tempore of this Senate session.
Moving on to the next agenda, POL 127. 2024, enact to revise Director of Technology's job description to remove the Executive Administrative Assistant as the DOT Supervisor and change it to the Vice President of UMSG Inc.
Thank you. That pretty much spells it out. It's as simple as that. It was brought to my attention by our financial affairs department that the payroll that I had been signing, technically I'm not supposed to be signing, like on paper, it's supposed to be my executive assistant, Jeff. That could be problematic when auditing time comes around. So literally all that this does is it streamlines the DOT in line with all of the other employees that I'm supposed to sign the payroll for, which are going to call the office employees. And that's literally it. This doesn't change any of the responsibilities, doesn't change the payroll, it literally just makes it so I'm not breaking the rules by signing this.
Are there any questions for the speaker? President Tripp?
Has historically the VP always signed the directors?
As far as I'm aware, yes.
Okay.
And also, fun fact, it is, I guess, not totally against the rules for the president and vice president to sign over others because we do technically supervise each other, but it's kind of weird for my executive assistant to be signing one employee's payroll and not everybody else's.
Other questions for the speaker? Seeing none, what's the committee's recommendation?
300 off pass.
Senator Lombardo.
I make the motion to accept the committee's recommendation.
Second. If that's the pleasure of the Senate, that passes. Moving on to discussion. Okay, move on to debate. President Tripp.
This organization should be entirely student-run, and this would make it that way officially.
Any further debate? Director of Technology Notes.
I endorse this.
Any further debate? Seeing none, all those in favor? All those opposed? Seeing a clear majority, that passes. Vice President.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Senator. Moving on to 45S FEPC 129, an act to reallocate the seats within undergraduate student senate. But this is like kind of a weird agenda confusion, so I'll pass it over to you.
Yeah, so, there was some miscommunication, about what I was, doing with this. It's not something that is being voted on, it is really just something that I want everyone to be aware of. In my job description, it allows me to reallocate the Senate seats, on a yearly basis. It is not permanently adjusting the Senate rules or the Constitution. That would be a whole different process. This is just saying for this election, these would be the Senate seats that I am allocating. So it is based off of the population of each college. Generally, these should be reallocated each year, as it states in our guidelines, in our constitution, everything. I don't believe they have been reallocated for upwards of 6 years. So populations of colleges have changed, and I believe that we should reflect that with representation here in the Senate. And so basically, what this would entail is not adding or removing any Senate seats. It is moving 2 Senate seats from CLAS, College of Liberal Arts and Sciences, and adding one of those to the engineering college, Maine College of Engineering and Computing, I believe is what it's called. So that would increase their Senate seat allotment from 5 seats to 6 seats. And it would also be moving 1 seat to the Maine Business School, so that would be increasing from 3 Senate seats to 4. CLAS would continue to have 6 Senate seats available for senators to sit on. This could impact the election. It most likely will lead us to not having any elections. So you could keep that in mind. But again, we're not voting on this. I'm just letting this be a place for everyone to ask questions and give me their input as to what they think of this. I know there are some issues with this resolution, but it will be amended and passed through FEPC next week, which you're all welcome to attend if you want to be part of this discussion further, moving further in the future.
Are there any questions for the speaker? Senator Schumer.
Being that not a lot of people will run for engineering seats or they haven't in the past, why did you decide to move one of the positions for engineering?
So it isn't based on current senators sitting in the positions or historical fulfillment of these positions. It's strictly based on the population of their college. So it's not based on, oh, education has no senators currently, let's take seats from them. It's more, this is how many students they have in this college. This is how it should be reflected in our institution.
Are there any other questions for the speakers? For Waters?
Well, because we aren't voting on it, are we still gonna have time where we have debate-esque comments?
Yeah.
Okay.
Did you?
It's not, we're in questions.
Okay, fair enough. Senator Bishop?
So in the rules, like you have discretion over this, in the rules or wherever you be. Does it say that the seats need to be allocated by the district person in college, or is that your discretion?
It's percentage,
So that's written in the rules.
yes, yep, in the Constitution.
Point of information, section 3, subsection B.2 of Article 5 of the Constitution reads as follows. The population of each college will be determined by using the University of Maine student records accounting for the most recent year to the election. The FAPC chair will be responsible for gathering these numbers and determining the final number of seats given to each college. This is entirely procedural.
Yeah, and I think just for some clarification and transparency, this was something that I started working on last year when as vice president-elect. But and then over the summer, there was a lot of confusion about the notes and why it says according to question mark, question mark, question mark. That's because this was very much a working document throughout the summer and fall as stuff was changing around. But then I re-educated myself on our government documents and saw that this was not my purview whatsoever, and this was completely somebody else's responsibility, so it was passed on. That's why it says that I'm sponsoring it, that's what all those extra notes are, was they were like living and breathing notes for the festival. Before I passed it on, it already belonged. Any other questions? Seeing none, we'll move into like a safe space for like debate points. Senator Wood.
Oh, okay. And this is my opinion, and this is a very long-term thing in general, but we have the highest student to senator ratio. If all 35 seats are filled, we have the highest student to senator ratio of all the New England flagship student governments, which means we have the highest amount of students per senator, which means I think it wouldn't be unreasonable if a senator wanted to expand the number of Senate seats, since we are finally having the interest to fill our Senate seats, to better represent, that number of 35 was decided a long time ago when University of Maine was smaller, but also to reflect how other student governments run, because we don't do everything perfectly. We don't always get it right. The other thing is that all those other New England flagships and benchmarks do not proportion their seats purely on college. They proportion it in other ways, such as graduating class year, or they do all at large with some reserved for freshmen. So I think it would be very good for senators to take a look at other student governments, see if there's things that they like, and think about real changes that would be a lot longer term than us in these elections, in an objective sense of how the student government should look after we exist here.
Yeah, I should let on.
President Tripp.
I just want to clarify, stop me if I'm wrong. These changes will be made, just so we're all on the same page. I think it's very important that these changes are made as they are written, because in the current setup of our organization, it is broken down by population. And not doing this makes our body unrepresentative currently, and we've had a obvious lean towards CLAS students. I was a CLAS senator, I'm still a CLAS student. And we've seen like a majority of essentially what had happened or has been happening is a majority of at-large seats tend to also be CLAS students. So in this, I think that it's very interesting to see, because the only one that's losing seats is CLAS, and we see kind of the growth and changing of our campus. But I think it's important this organization grows and changes with it. And it's really too bad that it hasn't been updated several years ago. And this was not brought to my attention as VP or anything, because if you recall, we were working on executive elections last year, and that's all we were touching, which is in hindsight a mistake. But overall, I think that Meredith's point is Senator Waters' point is an important one, and I encourage that we reflect on this, but I just want to make sure that everybody knows that none of these changes can be made this year. I'm just going to find that, because I know you already kind of said that, but I just want senators to know that. Because of how it's written, because it's written into our constitution, nothing can be changed without constitutional referendum, which can't happen until the executive elections. So no changes can be implemented until next year. That's all.
Senator Waters.
We're also changing and growing in a negative way with this university. Our CLAS population going down at this university isn't a coincidence. It is a product of the past 10 years of the CLAS programs at this university being gutted and people not being able to finish their CLAS degrees or not start their CLAS programs that they want to pursue here because they don't exist anymore. So our current CLAS senators, since we have so many, should try and form a caucus to work on making sure that we're using our CLAS representation to work on stopping the bleed before it becomes too late and there's no liberal arts program at this university.
Any other safe space debates? Seeing none, do you have anything else for the Senate?
No. Have anything else, but I just want to remind everyone that sort of discussion and at UMSG, and it will continue to be one. So if you want to continue the discussion, please come.
All right, thank you. That concludes new business. Seeing no main motion, I am now looking for a motion to enter an executive session. Senator Waters.
I move to enter executive session.
If that is the pleasure of the Senate, that is adopted. All non-members of UMSG Inc. are excused. It's my understanding we have a couple observing senators. If you just get in touch with myself or other execs, we can talk about next steps. So.
In the back, we're talking to you.
Unfortunately, everybody who's not in UMSG needs to leave now. That's what I'm saying.
For instance, okay, but, if you don't find the office tomorrow, let us.